We're very happy today at AQ's Blog and Grill to have Jay Baer join us. Jay is one of my favorite people to follow on Twitter, and his blog, Convince and Convert, is absolutely fabulous. If you're not there with Jay, you should be. Two great books that I've read so far of Jay's, The Now Revolution, which he co-authored, and his new book, Youtility, which I think is a home run. A lot of books come out about social media, social marketing. This young man from Indianapolis, Indiana, has hit a home run. So welcome. Thank you, Jay, for coming here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate those kind words. It's fantastic to be here. I had a birthday recently, so 44 now, so I don't feel like a young man anymore, I'll tell you that. I feel like a broke down has-been, but I appreciate you liking the book.
Well, it's great. And I think, the key for me was reading that branding people today, marketers today, have got to be thinking more about helping than hyping. And is that one of the keystones of Youtility?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, consumers have all the power now. They have the ability to ignore messages, to make decisions with infinitely more information at their disposal than ever before. And this idea that somehow technology has forced us to do everything more quickly and that we have to convert tomorrow and here's another coupon and let's shout louder and let's tweet 18 times a day with coupons and special offers, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I know you do some work in agriculture. One of the things I talk about when I give presentations about Youtility is that we've got to change our marketing philosophy from hunting to farming, right? We have to kind of work to gain customer trust and sales and advocacy over the long term, not the short term. And I think being inherently useful and helpful is the way to do that.
Yeah, cool. And I think the thing about nurturing sales, we have to get back to that and nurturing leads. It's not about,
Yes.
as you say, converting overnight and blasting people with information they probably don't think is relevant. So.
Well, I think one of the challenges we've had in business forever is even though we all know, right, we've all heard this and we all know this to be true, that it's much easier to keep a customer than gain a customer. We all know that to be true, but we don't actually behave that way. We don't actually architect our businesses or our marketing as if that were true, even though we know it to be true. Joe Jaffe wrote a terrific book 2 or 3 years ago called Flip the Funnel, which talks about that premise, right? That keeping customers active and getting them to advocate on your behalf is a much smarter move than continuing to dump more and more and more dollars and effort into customer acquisition. And Youtility kind of takes those same themes and applies it into today's kind of content marketing framework.
Right. So the book's been out for just a little bit now. What kind of response are you getting from corporations, from organizations that should be listening to you? Are they?
Yeah, it's been terrific. I mean, the book hit number 3 on the New York Times bestseller list. We were number 1 on Amazon.com, number 1 on Barnes & Noble globally. My mom is an English teacher and taught high school literature for like 35 years. So at one point, my book was number 1 and like something from Steinbeck was number 6. So I took a screenshot of that, emailed that off to her, like, yeah, suck on that, right? So that was a proud moment. But the book is doing great, thank you. And I've had the opportunity to speak with a number of companies, small, medium, and large, about the Youtility principle, and it's a lot of fun coming into companies and sort of saying, look, you don't have to create marketing that people hate. You can actually create marketing that people want to receive.
Right.
You can, in fact, create marketing so good that people would pay for it, that has so much intrinsic and inherent value that if you said, hey, would you kick in a couple of dollars for this marketing, people would say, yeah, I absolutely would do that.
Yeah.
It is possible to make that happen, and then show a bunch of examples of companies that are doing it today. And so lots and lots of travel right now, which is terrific, home today, but lots of time on the road, helping companies figure this out and sort of change the way they look at marketing, which is it's a fun assignment. I'm honored to be able to do it.
That's great. I mean, isn't it funny that we've heard for the last, 8 to 10 years that organizations are becoming customer-centric. And they're becoming customer-centric because the customer is now in control. The power has shifted. And yet they still have business models from the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. How long can that last?
Well, and I think there is a greater sense of customer centrism, but primarily in customer service and customer care.
Okay.
So my first book, as you mentioned, Open is the Now Revolution, where we talked a lot about companies having to re-architect their customer service and be faster and things along those lines. And you're starting to see many more companies embracing that and doing real-time customer support on Twitter and Facebook, et cetera, and not making people sit in call centers for hours, and all of that I think is happening.
Right.
But that is a very reactive form of customer centrism.
Right.
What we're talking about in Youtility is, well, let's make your proactive marketing customer centric too.
Yeah.
That you could actually be useful. You could create marketing that people are excited to be exposed to, and that's a whole nother level.
Exactly.
Of being customer centric. Now, is that going to happen overnight? Of course not. I mean, as I talked about in the book, yes, there are some tactics and operational things that you can and should do to embrace Youtility, but it all starts with culture. You either believe that this kind of marketing is going to pay off eventually,
Yes.
or you don't.
Right.
And if you don't, you're never going to do it, or you're certainly not going to do it right.
Right. And I guess the other saying that's going around, and I think in your book Youtility, you pretty much confirm this, is that culture eats strategy. That unless your culture is right, it doesn't matter what your strategy is if they're not aligned.
Well, and I think that's always been true, but it hasn't really been importantly true for a long time, because if you think about for the last 50 years or so, the strategic shifts weren't as dynamic, right? You didn't have to say, well, let's now put the customer in the primary spot. I mean, you had strategic shifts, of course, based on automation and supply chain and the rise of digital and things like that, but they weren't fundamental strategic shifts.
Right.
They were evolutionary strategic shifts. So now we're talking about having a whole different set of values, and that your business operations will then stem out of these new values. And so while culture has always eaten strategy, I think today that actually matters.
One of the things that really struck me from the Now Revolution was the line, social media is not about logos, it's about people.
Sure.
And then I just saw this natural extension from your statement in that book into Youtility.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we do a lot of that work on the consulting side, and I'm also on the board and an investor in Advocate.com, Advocate.com, which is a software package that helps companies do that. Look, ultimately, your primary connectivity point with your customers or prospective customers will not be your official company Twitter account or Facebook page or YouTube channel. If you think about the number of employees you have and the number of social connections that your employees have, it's massively larger
Bingo.
than the number of connections your company has.
Right.
And so being able to decentralize your social media and humanize the brand, not just by making the official Twitter account read like a person, but actually getting your employees to participate, to me, that's the next stage of evolution. You're seeing some companies do that already. Dell does it well. IBM does it well. There are others out there.
Okay.
But that sort of how do you turn employees into social ambassadors,
Right.
even if they're not in marketing?
Yeah.
That's the next stage.
And I guess everyone has always been in marketing, whether it said that on
Right.
their business card or not. They did represent
That's
the
right.
brand or the company.
And now we really have the tools and the venues to actually back that up.
Right.
Of course, everybody's always been in marketing. Any one of your employees has the ability to plus or minus your brand by their actions, either on behalf of the company or just, hey, this guy's a jerk on our little league team. I don't want to buy from those guys, right? It has an impact on brand perception.
Yep.
But now with social media and Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and all that, that dynamic of your employees being able to gain or lose you customers is really accelerating.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that comes out in Youtility is that this is an incredible number. In 2010, people needed 5.3 items or data points, information points to sources to make a decision, a purchase decision. And only 1 year later, that figure had doubled to just over 10. So what's up with that? Why are people gathering more and more before they make a decision?
Yeah, it's a huge linchpin to the thesis for the book. I mean, there's three facets of utility that I talk about in the book, and the first one that you're referencing is self-serve information, that you have to manifestly over-inform customers like never before because they're kicking the informational tires in ways that were unthinkable not that long ago.
Right.
I believe that we consume more information now before purchase, not because we're more uncertain of how we're spending our dollars or we're risk adverse, but because we simply have more information. Now that everybody is connected all the time via smartphones or tablets or more portable laptops or wearable computing or whatever it comes next,
Right.
why would you not look stuff up? Like today, if you make a bad purchase decision, right? You buy a bad car, bad condominium, bad sweater, bad chicken sandwich, bad software package, you're just lazy.
Yeah.
Because all the information you need to make a good decision is literally at your fingertips.
Right.
And consumers have completely figured that out. So if your business isn't providing some of those 10.4 sources of information that people need on average before buying, they're still going to get 10.4 sources.
Right.
But where they're going to get those sources may not be very complementary to your cause.
Right.
So you've got to continue to sort of play that game. And what I tell corporations in particular, when I talk about this, and this is a little bit of an overstatement of fact for effect, but it's not too far from the actual truth, which is if somebody has to call you to buy from you, you're doing it wrong.
The friend of mine, awareness,
yeah.
is kind of so cool because it's like we as consumers, we don't trust institutions anymore. We don't.
Yeah.
So references have come way down into our group of peers, our friends, and how's that affecting purchase journeys then, even including B2B?
Well, it's the reason why we need to be more useful in how we market our businesses and how we behave. I mean, we keep our friends close and our family members close because we have a kinship with them, an affinity, and that affinity is based on trust. And it's based on usefulness. Now, most of our friends some of our friends are deadbeats, but some of them are useful. And those that are useful, we keep close. Like everybody knows the guy who has a truck, right? You know that guy because he has a truck and he's useful if you have to move something, right? So your business can be the guy who has a truck by being useful, by providing information and resources in a relevant context that customers and prospects genuinely want to receive. And when you do that, when you position your company as a provider of resources that matter, people tend to treat you similarly to how they treat friends and family members. They keep you close. They go to your website and they bookmark it and they get on your email newsletter and they follow you in social media and they advocate on your behalf. And all the things that we do for our friends, we do for companies that are useful. I mean, we crave useful things, but somehow businesses have said, well, we can't be useful. We just have to continue to be promotional and throw ourselves upon you in a bunch of different media.
Yeah, it's amazing. Brenner says, we need to cross the line from enablement to encouragement.
Yes.
And I think you might even quote that in Youtility.
Yes, his case study's in the book.
Okay, so where's Michael coming from on that?
Well, he's got an interesting scenario because he realized that his organization needed to create more useful content. And they set up a structure, a blog by which employees could be more useful, and in so doing win a greater share of attention and a greater share of loyalty.
Right.
But as it turns out, a small percentage of his team at SAP actually did that. And so what Michael advocates, and I don't disagree, is that you can't just build it and say, well, start blogging, people. Mm-hmm. You have to actually encourage people and really hold their hand to make that happen. I mean, at the end of the day, if somebody really wanted to be a blogger, they'd already be a blogger. Right? They would have figured out a way to do it themselves. And so you're dealing with fence sitters in the organization, and the way that you get people to get off the fence is not to build a longer fence. Right? It's to actually grab them by the hand and pull them off the fence and then show them what lies on the other side. And that's where he's at today.
Yeah, very cool. Is there a Midwestern type of sensibility that's needed on the web and in social marketing that, it is that caring and sharing helpfulness?
It's an interesting question. Nobody's ever asked me that, Alan. I don't want to categorize an entire region of the country necessarily, but I would say all companies would be better off reducing the hype and increasing the help.
Right.
But that again requires a mindset shift, not just a marketing tactic shift.
Gotcha. Jay, it's been super to talk to you today. I really appreciate you coming on the show, and I know our viewers do. And we wish you all the best, and I can't wait for the next book.
Oh, thanks. I don't know. The next one may be the death of me, but we'll see. We're actually working on a series of ebooks around Youtility, so people should watch for that. We're going to start doing a bunch of ebooks about this concept for specific industries. So be on the lookout. First one will be out first Friday next year.
Oh, excellent. Well, viewers, we're going to have 12 copies of Jay's book Youtility signed. And we'll be offering those as a promotion.
It's weird though; they're not signed by me. They're just signed by people. It's gonna be amazing.
No, we'll get you on camera. We'll get you signing them, and
visual proof, right?
Visual proof. And so anyway, we'll be putting that promotion up later on. Not that we're hyping it, but
it's okay.
But reading Jay Baer is very helpful. So Jay, once again, thanks for joining us. See you.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Bye bye.